Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Fanzone Debate. We are here at Mayhem at the Multiplex. Seven of these. I think we can all agree that our wives and our dearly beloveds that we have in our lives all hate us. No, this is very exciting. I'm looking forward to this one. We got the champ Cody Newberry looking to make his fifth defense. I believe though this is his seventh title appearance if you include his win and his one loss to Kirk when he first challenged. So 7 title match appearances. If he wins today, it'll be his fifth defense, which is the highest that any champion in debate has had. So that would be pretty incredible. He's going up though against Brian Michaels, who's no stranger to the Fanzone ring. He basically helps run the thing. He's here all the time. He knows the ins and outs. I think these players know each other in and out, even though they've never actually debated. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens today. Brian tore his way through the tournament. Defeated former champion Kirk, who I think on paper everyone kind of had being here for another Kirk Cody fight, but Brian won it, and now he's gonna have a shot at the title. Mark, you're here. You're here for all these things most of the time now. How do we rope you into all this? And how you doing? What do you think of the match?
Oh, well, funny thing is, you get roped into this by just answering yes to a single question, and then it all just kind of rolls downhill.
It's fair.
I'm very happy I'm here. This is a very, very good match. I mean, we talked about it all throughout him winning, like every match he had won, where Brian had been this good competitor before, wondering if he lost a step, and he gets into a tournament and he wins it. Like, and now he's playing for the title. Like, it's been really fun to watch, at least from this seat right here, and I'm very happy to see what's going to happen now that he's made it to a title, and now he has to face Cody, who's never a slouch in this at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Jacoby, you got pulled in to do this because I couldn't use Kirk. I didn't want to use Coho. I couldn't use Cody or Brian. So you're here. And no, I'm looking forward to this because you have judged before. I wasn't here, though, and I was sad because I wanted to be here. But I watched it, and I thought you did a great job. I'm excited that you're here today. Have you played both of them? You for sure played Cody. I don't think you've
just
played
Cody. No, I haven't played Brian, but I've been watching a lot of just Brian's matches because like a competitor, so I'm trying to prepare and just get used to their kind of debate styles and stuff. And I like how both of these competitors sort of structure their arguments and how they go about it. And now that we're going to see these two different styles clash, I think that's going to be very exciting. So I'm happy to be here. It might have been by process of elimination, but I am happy to be here.
Well, you're still high on the tentpole. How about that? So we are going to talk to the players real quick because this is going to be a long match. So real quick interviews. We're going to talk to Brian Michaels first. Brian, I think we've said pretty much everything. You played, then you judged, now you played, and now you're playing for the big one. You've won belts at Multiplex before, but obviously not the debate title. It's one held by very few. What are your thoughts going into this?
I'm kind of surprised I'm here. I mean, I've said before, I'm just kind of in this for fun kind of thing. And now that I'm here, it's like, yes, I would love to win. It'd be awesome to have the title, have the championship. But I didn't think I'd make it this far, especially with Kirk in my way. I was shocked to win that one. And to face Cody is very daunting. I mean, he's, along with Kirk, he's like one of the people on the Mount Rushmore, of the Fanzone debate for a reason, because he has a way of not only structuring good arguments, but just throwing off his opponents. And he's very much more aggressive style than mine. I got to try and keep my head on during that. So it's going to be fun, but and I'm not just saying this, I'm just happy to be here. So
awesome, Brian. We're happy you're here as well. So let's bring in the champ, Cody Newberry. Cody, I said if you win today, you get a fifth defense, which is something that no one else in the league has been able to do. But also some of the people you've faced, you've played 4 titles: Kirk, Holtzman, Nazario, Jacoby. How's Brian compared to all those people? Are more nervous, more prep? Like what are we thinking versus your previous matches?
So I think I said this when Brian came back. I don't want to play him, and look where I'm playing, so that's fun. Yeah, 5 different defenses, and it's gonna be, if I get it, it's against 5 different people, which I consider like Kirk and Jacoby the top echelon of the league of people I put up there. So to surprise that they didn't run it back at some point to play again in this run is kind of weird for me. No, I think Brian, I'm more nervous for this match than I've been in a long time. That could be questions. That could be just how Brian seems to prep for it. And kind of how he handled Kirk, which I handled Kirk in different ways. Like the first time I ran through people to get to him and I lost. Similar to what Brian's kind of doing now. Like he's playing me for the title right away after having that run. So like, he's played matches. My last match was a while ago, so that's why it's a little nerve. I haven't been in the ring. He has. He's been prepping. So I don't take him lightly, and he could win. But I'm kind of at peace at this point, win or lose. But I want that 5th defense. Like I don't want to share it with Kirk. I want to be solo up on that mountaintop. So yeah, I will continue to play until I will continue to defend until the 3 judges tell me that I've lost more points than them. But yeah, I'm ready to play.
All right, well, let's get into it. This is how it's going to work. There are 5 prep questions based off of categories that the players drafted tonight. Because this is a title match, we got that extra 1 there. The first player to get to 4 points instead of 3 is going to be the winner. So based on those prep questions, or based on the prep categories, we gave them questions. And they're going to debate them tonight before our very souls. So they each get 1 minute to open their argument, followed by a 5-minute freeform, followed by a 1-minute closing at the end of the debate. Mark, Jacoby, and I will write on our handy-dandy boards who we thought won the debate. If you get 2 out of 3 votes, you win the point. And as I said, first person to 4 points wins the match. So if for some reason we are at a 3-2 coming out of the prep questions, we will go to a bonus round. If we are tied after the first bonus question, there will be a second bonus question to tie or to declare a winner. Players, any questions? All righty then. Let's do it. All right, we are going to kick this off with the first category, which was drafted by Cody in the category of Disney animation. Your question is, which post-2000s Disney animated side character was the most useful in their film? So, Cody, you get to kick this off. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
Useful side characters in Disney seem essential to the plot of most movies. If not, the main character normally doesn't complete their mission or get to the task at hand. I think that's on display clearly in The Emperor's New Groove. I picked Pacha. Pacha is literally if it wasn't for Pacha, this movie is a short because Cusco dies in the first 10 minutes of being a llama. He doesn't get to where he needs to go. Not only is he useful in survival and getting him back to being a human form, he actually is useful to the entire the people that live in Cusco's kingdom because he changes him as a person. And instead of a selfish leader, he actually finds Cusco's heart and changes him and makes him a better person. So useful across the board. Pacha is the clear answer for most useful character in a 2000s Disney movie.
Okay, ending about 5 seconds early. We are going to move over to Brian. Brian, you have 1 minute to open your argument when you start talking.
Baymax from Big Hero 6 was created to be useful. He was invented to serve up as a personal healthcare companion. He has the ability to scan for health, detect anything from allergies and small abrasions to major injuries. To treat those those problems, he's programmed with over 10,000 medical procedures. He's even equipped with defibrillators in his hands. And I can't think of anything more useful than keeping people safe, healthy, and alive. But healthcare aside, he goes on to prove his usefulness in many other ways. He can lift 1,000 pounds. He can instantly download information and learn anything, like when he instantly learns martial arts. He has super sensors that can scan entire cities at once and locate anyone instantly, or scan people to identify them. He can act as a warming device. He can act as a cushion to protect from deadly falls, as well as just to relax on, or as a flotation device in the water. He provides emotional support and counseling, and after his upgrades, he could fly the whole team anywhere they needed to go and had rocket fists. He could even be switched over to become a deadly fighting machine if he had to. And all this is just scratching the surface. From his first scene to his last, all Baymax is useful.
All right, time. All right, Pacha versus Baymax. Guys, you have 5 minutes when one of you starts talking. I will throw up the 1 minute warning when the time comes. If I feel like we're on a point too long or it's not useful, we're going to throw up the let's move on. And if you're not letting your opponent talk, I'm going to say let your opponent talk. Don't make me do that. I will send Nick to your house. So 5 minute free form when one of you
I'd like to meet Nick.
So my biggest problem with Baymax, you're right. Yes, he has all these tools. He's always good, but he's honestly a chip away from removing all that about him, because a chip can literally ruin him. And I love that you said that he keeps him alive. That's a very interesting thing, because the creator of Baymax was Tadashi, and it's crazy. He died. He died, and Baymax was nowhere to be around to help him. So out of the two characters that get to use Baymax, one of them dead, and the other makes him about as useful. Baymax is a character that, without a human programming and making him do the things, he is completely useless. He almost gets hero killed at the very beginning. He has to be charged. He can be popped at any point. It's just a constant errors of not being useful inside his own movie.
Well, first of all, saying that he didn't save Tadashi is ridiculous because he wasn't there. That's like saying that Pacha didn't stop Kuzco from being turned into a llama because he wasn't there. He wasn't part of that scene. If he was there, he would have protected them. He would have saved them. As far as being able to be popped or anything like that, he can defend himself, especially when it gets into the point where he's actually going to battles, things like that. He has already been enhanced with all these things. He has armor. He has the rocket fist. He has all kinds of abilities not to. The problem with Pacha, without credits, your movie's 72 minutes. 30 minutes of that, Pacha doesn't do anything besides go to see the Emperor and come back home to his family. And once he is in the movie, you talk about he saves the Emperor. He saves him, but he gets tied up, basically takes a step backwards. The branch breaks, they fall into the rapids, they get slammed around over a waterfall. He actually is basically causing more problems than he's solving.
Okay. Where he gets saved is literally where jaguars are about to eat him. I didn't say a comedy of errors doesn't happen because, wow, it's a Disney cartoon and yeah, things will happen. But yeah, Tadashi dies on, it's no Baymax, but you're saying armor, flying, all these things. Those are things that are added to Hero. That's not Baymax. Baymax doesn't have any of those features until Hero adds. No, he doesn't. He has 0 of them. He has to get programmed to fight. He doesn't have that. If he runs into a person that has a unique fight, he's useless. He doesn't have any of the credibility. He gets added those things by Hero. So Hero is useful by using Baymax. It's similar to Captain America and the Shield. With Hero, with Captain holding the shield is great. But without Captain holding it, it's just laying on the floor. And that's what Baymax would do. He would be in the charging station, which is the exact reason he's not around for Tadashi, because that's not his role. He's not useful until Hero needs to use him.
You got it backwards. You're saying the shield isn't useful without Captain America. That's like saying Captain America isn't useful without the shield, because Baymax was already useful. Not as battle in the beginning. He's useful as his personal health companion and all the things that he could do to help and protect and keep someone safe and healthy, even if he's not in a battle. Yeah, then Hero makes additions to him, including armor and things, makes him even more useful because now he can do all these additional things. Pacha only offered to help take Kuzco back if he agreed to his terms, is I believe his words to it. Baymax is able to help without conditions. Baymax is there to do nothing but help.
Yeah, You got the Iron Man suit. It's fine. But I'm saying at the end of the day, where he needs to use it, Baymax doesn't do anything without Hero's design. That's the whole point of it. Hero creates this entire character to make him a fighting robot, a flying robot. He ends up dying at the end, and they just create a brand new Baymax. So at the end of the day, there's no real thing. He has literally got holes in him when he has to tape himself up. He is useless. He's falling asleep charging. If a battle goes too long, he's completely gone. Yeah, and Pacha is going to lose his house, and he does that. He ends up getting him away from the Jaguars, getting him back to the land because he doesn't know the setup. His family, he has a family that helps Cusco get away from Yzma and Kronk, and he's the reason that they're able to climb up and grab the formula to put him back as a human. So at that point, he's literally the most useful. If he doesn't, Cusco is a llama, and he's at the bottom of the river. Dead.
You give me a lot of what ifs about Baymax. The question is, like, what if this happened?
What ifs,
in the movie, what did happen? He was super useful, and even before, you're talking about the battle and things like that. Even before that, he was useful as a personal healthcare companion. He's useful for emotional support. He was useful for learning new things, for teaching him things. At one point, he is useful because he lets him speak to his brother, who has been or hear from his brother, and see his brother one more time after he's dead.
He's a DVD player. I'm so happy that you picked that. But
Exactly. One more way he's useful.
The useful thing, when the first bad guy shows up and he's supposed to stop him, he's a liability. He literally almost gets Hero caught and killed. His other owner, healthcare companion, is not around to defibrillate or keep Tadashi alive. He's useful because Hero makes him useful. That's your biggest problem.
But he's still useful.
If you take out a chip, he becomes a destroying monster.
He protects him. He sacrifices himself at the end to save them.
All right, Brian, you get to start closings on this one first. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
That went by fast. All right. Pacha may be a good person. He may be entertaining. He may be nice. He may be trustworthy. But useful is a very specific term. It's not asking for the best character or the favorite character or the coolest or exciting or likable or whatever else we ask about sometimes here. Usefulness is to serve a purpose. Useful is Baymax's entire reason for being. He serves many purposes, not the least of which is his original reason for being, which was simply keeping people safe, healthy, and alive, which alone would be enough. But from something as simple as giving Hero a much-needed hug to his final act of sacrificing himself and get Hero and Abigail back safely through the portal, through the course of Big Hero 6, Baymax constantly proves to be useful physically, emotionally, mentally, strategically, and even in smaller ways like being a cushion to lay your land on or as a personal heater when you're cold. Tadashi Hamada said it when he invented him. You're going to help so many people. Baymax was designed to be useful and proves it time and time again for the entire run of the film in big ways and in small ways.
Okay, time. All right, we're going to go over to Cody. Cody, you have 1 minute to close your argument when you start talking.
Baymax is supposed to help people. That's his intention. But guess what? Hero changes all that about him and makes him a fighting robot where he has multiple team partners and multiple, they become the Avengers of this group. That's fine. But at the end of the day, Baymax still has the same problems. He's emotionally, he doesn't know how to connect with people. He can be popped. He literally dies. He can be replaced. His one owner that can defibrillate and save people's life, he's nowhere around. He has to be charged. He has to be deflated. If Cusco does not have Pacha, he does not exist. The story does not get completed. He's a llama forever, and he's able to know the terrain, change him, carry him up to the kingdom, get him back to being a human, and changes him for the better. So everybody in that region is improved life useful because he's better for it. He changes their entire life because Cusco's no longer a selfish asshole that only cares about himself. Pacha changes that. That's what you want in a useful character. Baymax is just a pillow.
Time. All right. I'm going to bring in the judges. What a good looking group of guys we got on here. Man alive. Now we just need to get Tuig on here and then We're just
That'd be unfair to us.
We're just like a full box of chocolates then. You guys ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic start. I thought these were both great picks, and it actually went in directions I did not expect. Like, they both brought up arguments for their characters and against their opponents that I thought were really smart, that I didn't think of, that I thought this was great. We almost gotta let your opponent talk, but it was good. He stopped himself. But
yeah, Brian, jeez.
But no, it was really good. I thought this was great. I went with Cody. I thought that the Pacha argument about making Cusco better and thus the whole like kingdom is better and the people are better, like, never thought of that, and that's genius. That wasn't like my sole reason, but he just said at the end, like, I thought that was great. And I saw what he was doing against. I thought his attacks against Baymax were strong. The whole Tadashi not dying thing, I thought Brian countered that really well by being like, if Pacha was there when Cusco turned into a llama, like, he would have stopped that too. That doesn't fucking matter. So I like that. I thought that his hits against Baymax, though, otherwise were really strong, and I thought that the hits against Pacha were just a little weaker. But I thought both did incredible jobs of building up their choices. Like, I was on board for that. It was just, I thought Cody's attack was a little bit more strong. So Mark, you're up next. What's up? What do you got?
Right. This is one of those cases where I feel like you kind of look at it on paper. One of these guys had the correct answer, and honestly it ended up losing, so I did go with Cody too. I mean, again, you look at Baymax, Pancha, you think, okay, like, it's Baymax, what are we talking about here? And Cody found a lot of creative ways to knock down Baymax, things I honestly didn't really think about. And his argument for making Pancha useful, in the sense that everybody would just be kind of screwed if Pancha wasn't there, was really smart. Like, I was pretty impressed with this whole argument. And, like, I mean, I thought Brian defended it as best he could, but Cody just kind of kept hitting, and he just kept bashing him in the head with that the entire time.
All right. Jacoby, your vote doesn't count. Where would you have gone? Why?
So it doesn't matter. So I'll just reveal it that I did go Cody as well. But in the middle of the match, I really thought Cody was losing it, because it seemed like he was making a point that was making Brian's case stronger, at least in my mind, about like how Baymax is like the shield to Captain America. I'm like, well, the shield is pretty useful. It's a great little tool here. But I think what happened overall was, as kind of you guys said, it painted a broader picture of not just like what he did, but also how he affected the main character himself, to become a better person. So the whole rounded aspect of, he not only affected the plot and was useful and saved, the main character's life, but he also changed the main character's life and allowed for plot progression to go forward. I think overall painted a better picture of why of usefulness in my eyes, even though Baymax on paper is like, these are all and Brian did great listing all the things that Baymax can do that makes him useful, but for their film itself, I think Pacha was more useful. Sorry, I thought, Pacha was more useful in that argument.
All right, so Cody wins the first point. We are going to move on to the next question, which was drafted by Mr. Brian Michaels in the category of Marvel. And the question is, which mutant that is not in the X-Men should join the X-Men? Brian, you're kicking off. 1 minute. I almost said 5. 1 minute when you start talking.
Since his beginnings in comics and on through the animated series, Gambit, aka Remy LeBeau, has been one of fan favorite characters, and yet he's the only one of the most popular characters to not yet be a part of the team in the films. Fans have wanted him in the movie since the beginning. We got a small tease of him when he entered the universe with a brief appearance in X-Men Origins Wolverine, where he was one of the few bright spots in an otherwise largely disliked film. but we're left wanting a bigger, better role for him. They barely scratched the surface of his huge potential, and that's why he'd make a perfect new addition. As an X-Man, his powers would bring something new to the team, not only its own, but being able to charge, enhance, and complement others' powers in all kinds of creative ways, like we recently saw in X-Men 97 with Wolverine and others. His personality brings something new with a charm, humor, and charisma currently missing from the team, which would be great contrast to Wolverine's seriousness and really flesh out the team dynamics. And from an audience perspective, finally bringing Gambit into the X-Men would have brought a renewed excitement to the film series and rejuvenated it.
Okay. All right. We're going to go over to Cody. Cody, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
So I think the clear-cut choice to join the X-Men is Deadpool. 2016's Deadpool, not a crap origin one that my opponent has picked for his version. I think Deadpool is the clear-cut answer. I think what X-Men gets blamed for, as an X-Men apologist, I love the films, but overall they get way too serious. They're way too tonally dark. And overall, adding Deadpool for comic relief, situational battles, he's great with action. He works well with like the grumpy, angry versions of X-Men throughout history. I think it would just work. It seems too good to be true why he thinks. I think a lot of people think that he would take away from the thing, but I think him as like a Rocket Raccoon, Incredible Hulk. Yes, they're big. They command the screen, but overall, centered in their stories, I think was crucial for the X-Men. We need a slapstick. We need funny. And we've seen with Wolverine, he can still break off and do his solo movies. He doesn't need to reunite, but when he's in the team would be cinema.
Time. All right, guys. 5 minute free form when one of you starts talking.
So
Catch, huh?
the X-Men doesn't benefit in any way from adding Deadpool. They already have someone who regenerates and fights with blades, and his name is Wolverine. Hell, in Deadpool's first appearance in the universe, he got those powers from Wolverine, which you want to ignore. Deadpool is Deadpool, so I didn't know we could pick out just one appearance of him. But fine, if you want us to ignore origins and look only at his solo films, the bigger problem is Deadpool exists outside of the real universe in his own like commentary world. That kind of fourth wall breaking, which is what Deadpool's all about, doesn't work in a straight film. So you'd have to remove what makes Deadpool Deadpool, and then again, you're just left with another regenerator who fights with blades.
I strongly disagree. It does not matter about the power and like we already got two. Man, I got two blades. That's great. Your problem is you picked Taylor Kitsch's X-Men as Gambit. We all want the Raging Cajun. Don't get me wrong. Would be fantastic. I don't want this version. I don't want the fedora. I don't want the trench coat with looking weird and doing cards and with a terrible accent. I want him reintroduced as somebody. We've seen fan favorites when they add them. They think they're doing so good. We've seen Jubilee. We've seen Cyclops be ruined. We've seen Juggernaut. We've seen these characters get introduced, and they do too much fanfare. This Taylor Kitsch, regardless recast or you bring Taylor Kitsch, is not the version of Gambit we want or need. The origins, you say a bright spot, awful spot. I think Deadpool is the one thing because he can break up scenes with that. Fourth wall can be an X-Men. Why not?
Okay. If you didn't like the Taylor Kitsch one, who I do think was one of the better parts of that movie, it's a good thing that in later movies they can change things up and make them a little different and improve them, like they did with Deadpool. You want to talk about origins? Let's talk about origins.
Deadpool was in that movie.
Deadpool. You can't say I only want this Deadpool. I only want one from this movie. So
no, I picked the one from the movie.
So you picked one from a movie. But the character is in more than one movie. The character's in several. So Gambit's in this movie. Let's say you don't like that iteration. Fine, the character exists. You don't like Taylor Kitsch. They were already playing. They had already cast Channing Tatum to do them. I don't care if they used Channing Tatum or Taylor Kitsch, because either way, I think it would have been exciting. But the thing is, either way, they can make changes. Hell, there's been like 2 Emma Frosts of different ages. There have been 4 Jubilees. There have been 2 Colossuses. They, like you already mentioned several times, where they changed characters completely from movie to movie. And so, yes, we're going to use the character because he was introduced in Origins, but they can still make changes if they put him in a new movie, had him join the team. They could have made him even better and further explored his character instead of just a brief cameo.
Okay, so if I wanted to pick Deadpool from Origins, I would have said Deadpool from Origins. I picked Deadpool from his movies, from the thing that I was allowed to pick from. So my problem is I get the merc with the mouth. I don't get the silent guy from the Origins. You pick Gambit because you want Gambit, but you don't want Taylor Kitsch's Gambit, so you want to switch up the question. That's fine. If that's what you want to say on, I think that's a weak argument. My viewpoint is I want Gambit, but I want a fresh approach on Gambit. I want Gambit introduced. I want the rogue storyline with Gambit. I don't want the guy that Wolverine met when he was hunting down Sabretooth and him to show back up randomly at one point. He's still got the stupid fedora on his head and he can do things with cards. That's not the Gambit we want. The Gambit that gets completely manhandled by Wolverine. That's not what I want. I want Deadpool because I think Deadpool is the one thing that's missing inside the X-Men. You said, yes, a regeneration and Blades. The one thing we don't have is any laughs. It's serious from start to finish, and he's the one that can break up the monotony. When they enter battles, he can have joking scenes. Him and Colossus have already shown the team.
Yeah, let me talk. So Deadpool is a fun character. And first of all, in the chat, and what you picked, you didn't say Deadpool from Deadpool. You said Deadpool. You picked a character, a mutant. So I don't see how we're eliminating certain appearances of him. But anyway, Deadpool is far better shining on his own and not just trying to fit into a team and stifling his own style. And the last time he was on a team in let's Deadpool 2, most of his team got killed. You want to talk about it in the last thing about how people around him get hurt and he's not around to help him. Deadpool is almost the reason that people around him getting killed because he's doing such weird shit.
Yeah, all the main X-Men survived. I just want that on the record of that situation. My thing is, adding him to the team is the one thing that causes an internal situations of comic relief. That's the reason they're teaming up with Wolverine. He works with the group. You're wanting to add Gambit, which is a character that we all want to see. Don't get me wrong. That's right. But not this version of Gambit. Gambit was ruined. Gambit was not a bright spot. You thought he was a bright spot because he helps your argument. But overall, everybody said, please no Taylor Kitsch. And you said Channing Tatum. Also, not the Raging Cajun I want at all. I want a introduction, brand new, in the group, a part of it.
You want introduction brand new. He made a brief appearance. People, if anything didn't like about that, that's the whole point. Is in a new appearance if they theoretically made another movie where they added Gambit, joined the team. They could expand his role. They could give you more of the Raging Cajun. You can show more of his personality. You can show in a little 5-minute cameo at best. You could show his power, showcase his power so much better. He'd be so dynamic. He'd be fun to watch. His interactions, his personality, everything about it. And you're reading just on the 5-minute cameo you had. The character is in the story, and you're just like saying he can't show any emotions he didn't show in that one. He can't use any abilities he didn't show in that one. No, he's a part of the team. He can expand on the character and show more.
So are we saying that we can't use that Blades and Regeneration? We already have that, but we don't have a card thrower, so that's what we need. That's just a weird argument to have. My thing is, he doesn't fit the X-Men thing. You haven't showed me how he actually works in well with the team. He doesn't. He doesn't fit with anybody because he is actually one of the ones that stand out. We've already got one of those. His name's Wolverine. He wants to be by himself. He was already experimented on. He doesn't like that. So you're creating the exact same argument I am. But Deadpool, add fourth wall breaking to X-Men. Add funny comments. Add him messing up scenes and stuff like that. That's what X-Men need. I need it.
Time. Okay. Cody, you get to close first. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
X-Men has struggled for all movies to try to be the comedic element. They've treated Wolverine as the comic relief, and that's not what we need. I believe him showing up in scenes, causing mischief, causing mayhem, making characters break their normal routine with Deadpool around, but he's also a fierce fighter that helps the team in thing. When he cares about people, he actually commits. Look how he is with his relationships. He is the character that we need to progress into the movie. He works with all the X-Men. He can be that funny guy. The problem with Gambit is he's the wrong character. I don't want the character that was introduced. I want a fresh start. You can recast him, but we're still stuck with the version from Origins. Just move to a different movie. It's not the person that we need. I need Deadpool to carry the X-Men to a different level, to break up the monotony of this dark, over-the-top, just let's be dark to be dark. Let's have some fun. Let's introduce these fun characters with an actual actor that can break those fourth walls and have comedic timing other than the grumpy guy with claws that just tells people to fuck off.
Okay. We're going to move over to Brian. Brian, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
How many times did Wolverine tell people to fuck off? Anyway, the only thing Deadpool would bring to an actual X-Men film is confusion. The tone doesn't fit, the meta aspect would make no sense, and on an abilities level, as a member of the team, he wouldn't offer anything the team doesn't already have. When not just in his own universe, using Deadpool is a no-win situation. You either use the solo films Deadpool that you want to use, whose meta commentary and fourth wall breaks don't fit the mainline X-Men franchise at all and would ruin it, or you completely neuter Deadpool and take away the meta aspect so he fits in that world, in which case you do end up with X-Men Origins Wolverine Deadpool, and nobody wants that. Gambit is a great character. He's the thief with a heart of gold, like the X-Men equivalent of Han Solo. He's got charm and charisma for days, and a power set that would not only add something new to the team, but lends itself to all kinds of creative and visually exciting possibilities. Whatever you thought of Origins, Gambit was not the problem. If anything, his introduction there made people even more hungry for him to join the team and get the bigger part and better story he deserved. He's the X-Men team member the world should have gotten, but never did. Deadpool on his side, like I said, he got his team killed last time he was part of a team. I don't want him as part of this one.
Time. All right. Gonna bring in the judges. Yes, McCall?
Going for a run.
You're going for a run? Sounds terrible. Oh, and she dropped the baby monitor off. I see. Okay.
They dropped the baby. I'm like, what?
Ellie's here. All right, you guys ready? Jacoby, you're starting this one.
So this was interesting. Got a little muddled in the middle there with about what was kind of allowed and what was not allowed, and the versions that we were allowed to use for all this stuff. So as a judge, I had to strip that kind of away from this argument. And throughout most of it, I was worried because one person was making an argument that I didn't like, and that was Cody, which in terms of like the strength around the argument of his team was like the Deadpool should be added for the comic relief, and he was hitting that really, really hard, and that seemed to form the crux of why he was a good member of the X-Men team. And I thought that was going to take it at the end, but in the closing and in the opening, and also come around in the closing, I thought Brian did do a better job of explaining why Gambit should be part of the team, about how his power set is complementary, how his personality matches with everybody like in different ways, and how he can add different powers and complement other powers, and strip down to the fact that Deadpool works better as a kind of a solo person, and why that is kind of important for the Deadpool character. So I did go with Brian.
Okay. Interesting. I disagree a little bit. I not totally, but a little bit. I think that I saw what Cody was going for. I would not say that I hated his argument at all. I thought his argument worked for what he was pitching. Just like I thought Brian, like I agree with Jacoby that I thought Brian's pitch worked for what he was doing, of like why Gambit would work in the X-Men made sense to me. Cody's idea of why Deadpool would work at the X-Men, like it made sense to me. I did go with Brian though, because I did think that at the end of the day, that key point of Deadpool would work better in a solo movie. And when Brian kind of brought up the examples of like how it would detract from the team movie overall, I thought that worked really well. And I thought that, Cody's argument of like, you're taking Taylor Kitsch character, you're putting it in there. And I thought Brian's whole thing of like bringing up Channing Tatum and all that stuff, like I kind of threw all that out. But I thought Brian took Cody's argument against Gambit and actually took it and kind of used it as a net positive of being like, we only saw a few minutes of him. So even if you're taking that exact version of the character and moving it over and not changing it at all, there's more room to shine in a team movie, team setting, when you're not just in a 5-minute cameo setting. So I thought that worked really well. So, Mark, your vote doesn't count. Where would you have gone and why?
So a large part of this fight that was kind of a mess. We're just kind of, rumbling about it, like which version of Deadpool are we talking about? Like, I mean,
welcome to X-Men continuity. It's a mess.
Yeah, like I mean, at the end of the day, we got 2 questions. We also got 2 clean sweeps. I also went with Brian. So, like, you guys kind of outlined it pretty well. Brian continually brought up why Deadpool would just kind of feel weird. I thought I don't know if I really side of anybody's argument for their character, but I kind of sided more with Brian's attacks. I think he broke down pretty well why Deadpool just kind of in the whole X-Men team would just kind of feel odd, and why like there's a greater potential for everything that we like about Deadpool being kind of ruined, like in like kind of an overall X-Men film.
All right. So we are tied 1-1. I'm going to
Let me be clear. Sorry, really quick. Sorry, Cody, if I misspoke. I didn't hate your argument. I hated how much you were making me agree with you that the X-Men needed humor. I wouldn't think that that's what the X-Men needed.
I got what you were going with. You're good.
Okay. I misheard you. My apologies. Yeah, that was my mistake. I'm glad you clarified that, because I was like, Jacoby, my God. So we are going to move on to the next category. This was drafted by Cody in the category of crime. Maybe direct crime. It was crime. I don't remember. I don't put those in there. Anyway, crime. The question is, which post-1989 Martin Scorsese crime film has the best introduction to one of the main characters? Cody, you are kicking this one off. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
I'll save the buzzwords of iconic and memorable and the best quote of all time, but I will say the best introduction to a character is Henry Hill in Goodfellas. As far as I can remember back, I wanted to be a gangster. When we first get that shot from him after they killed the guy in the trunk and him looking up, realizing, holy crap, where's my life gone? We get a flashback. We get the music. I go from rags to riches, goes back to when he's a boy looking over at the mob saying, this is all I've ever wanted, because it looks larger than life. Even his parents are okay with what he's doing. And we see how he got to where he got at the very start, where we go the flashback and realize how far his life has changed. And it went from running cigarettes and doing this stuff and the things that happen to how far he is in the gangster life. I think it's such a smart introduction to the character, because you realize how he could get sucked into this world, why it's appealing to a young kid, why seeing this across where you grew up, like why you would want to be a part of it. I think it's the best introduction by far.
Okay. We are going to move over to Brian. Brian, you now have 1 minute when you start talking.
One thing that made The Departed as great as it was Jack Nicholson's Frank Costello, who has us mesmerized right from his introduction at the start of the film. From the very first line, which I don't want to be a product of my environment, I want my environment to be a product of me, to the last line of the scene where he says, when I was your age, they would say we could become cops or criminals. Today, what I'm saying to you is this: when you're facing a loaded gun, what's the difference? Those two lines alone already perfectly define the character for us, but everything in between just makes it even better. We learn everything we need to know about Frank in this short introduction. It's clear from the beginning he has power. He owns everybody. He commands the respect of everyone, and they fear him. We in turn see his charisma, his charm, his intelligence, his brutality, and even his sick sense of humor. And the style here is beautiful. The cinematography, where his intro starts with Frank only in silhouette, but it's unmistakably Jack, and the montage ends with him stepping forward out of the shadows. It has the perfect use of music, with the Rolling Stones' Gimme Shelter playing throughout the intro montage. All in all, it's a great, memorable introduction to the character and to the film.
This fight is like my wet dream. Okay, guys, 5 minute free form. When one of you starts, sorry, Brian. When one of you starts.
So you don't learn a ton about Frank. That's the whole issue. I understand he's a great at like talking about these little lines and doing it. He's honestly comes off, besides a ruthless killer, I'm fine with him being a ruthless killer. He comes off as a fucking creep and kind of pedophile. I know that sounds weird and very barshot thing. He asked the girl why he's on her period. They do this awkward scene where you can't see his face and he's like walking towards. He's got a weird obsession with talking to all these children. You don't know who he is. You don't know what he is. And they do this thing where it's like in the dark, but you can see his face clearly the entire time. It's a weird, chaotic editing where I don't like this version of Frank. You learn way more future, but this is just like, okay, I know he's the bad guy, but what does he do? Like, it's weird. It's a weird, chaotic editing mess.
So just to elaborate on my opening, we see his power and reputation when, I believe his name is Vin, the shop owner's clearly intimidated and doesn't stand up for his daughter when Frank asks Carmen about her period. At the same time, we see how charismatic he is, because Carmen's insulted and disgusted by his question, but then is immediately charmed by something he whispers in her ear after that, and she smiles. He then charms Colin by sending home groceries and comic books, so we see that he may actually care for the people in his neighborhood, but He's talking to them because he knows he's also laying the groundwork to recruit new boys for the future. He's brutal, as we see when he shoots 2 people in broad daylight, and he has a twisted sense of humor, as you see when he says, they fell funny. And French responds, "You should really see somebody." We fully understand everything about the character before the main story even begun. So I don't know what you mean about you don't learn anything about him.
You really just don't, like, he's a crime hand, but you don't know anything of why he's in this world, what his organization looks like. It's just a chaotic jump of like, I want to be a product of my environment in this great Boston accent that he does. He's coked up out of his mind. It's fine. Like, again, one of my favorite movies of all time. I'm not going to tell it, but it's a weird introduction to a character of their choices of chaotic, just jumping back and forth to these scenes. Yes, we get to see him kill. We get to see the weird grocery scene where he talks to the girl. I understand his power dynamic. Scorsese film.
You understand it because they demonstrated it so well in this introduction.
No, I don't think they do. I just think that's where, like, that's the product of the beginning. And you throw "Give Me Shelter," shocker, another check for the Scorsese box. You do that, I understand, but the montage is all over the place, and it doesn't change where it's a great introduction to who Frank is. It's just, he's doing crime things, which is in every Scorsese film.
Thank you for supporting my argument so much in your statement there. First of all, as far as Goodfellas, you say his parents are okay with, but your parents are definitely not okay with what Henry Hill is doing.
No, they are.
So the very beginning of it, the first drunk scene tells us more about Pesci's Tommy than Henry, but we're not really looking at that. We're looking at everything after that, after the quote mostly. So that's kind of a non-issue because Henry's just kind of there. But most of the flashback section of the intro and the narration isn't even about Henry. It's Henry introducing the other characters, the neighborhood, Tuddy, Polly, the organization. We're seeing it through his eyes. But, aside from saying, he's this kid who grew up watching this, we aren't learning anything about the character. The character we really want to be introduced to isn't until like 10 minutes later with Leota. The stuff with the kid is just background.
No, so I don't think you understood the scene. His parents are happy that he got a job. His parents are happy until it starts affecting the grades later. So he's with the gangsters. He's in the thing. They're fine with him being across to. Everybody in that town knows exactly who they are. He's setting the groundwork of why he wanted to be the gangster, what that environment looked like, why he wanted to be in it. That's the whole point. The problem with Frank Costello, he's a ruthless mob boss. You can kind of tell, but he's also creepy in his delivery. I don't think that's the intention that they want to portray as Frank. They just end up doing it because it's a bad, chaotic jumps. That beginning scene and the end scene, you think it's a nice cap off. It should just be the same scene. It should be nothing. We don't need to see the grocery store. We don't need to see any of the extra stuff. We just need that introduction, and that would work. But it falls apart in the middle of that introduction because that's characters all over the place. In his weird accent and the weird chaotic editing, is what I'm saying. Henry Hill is a perfect introduction to a character of getting sucked into this world, and especially after they kill the guy at the beginning. He does, like, his whole life is
the beginning and the end of my scene. Those 2 quotes, like I said, already told you everything you need to know. If that was the introduction of the character, we would already know that character. Everything in between is just bonus. There's nothing weird about the way he is with the kid because, like I said, we're showing with the daughter and the shop owner, we're seeing the power dynamic as well as like the charm he had. With the kids, we're showing that he's almost like, I don't know, networking is the wrong word, but in the neighborhood, he's kind of grooming people to kind of be future. He's in control of the neighborhood and wants to have more people ready to join him as they grow up, and he can use them like we see he does later in the movie. And there's nothing weird about it. The editing is just fine. It works perfectly in this montage. If anything, in yours, the editing is choppier than in Departed.
There we go.
After doesn't make it untrue.
No, but the issue is with your problem is you're saying the beginning tells you everything we had the church. It doesn't tell you anything about Frank. It tells you where he's growing up.
Time. All right. Brian, you get to close first. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
A great introduction tells you who a character is. A great introduction tells you how they fit into the world of their movie. And a great introduction makes an immediate impact. Frank Costello's introduction in The Departed did all of those things and executed every one of them perfectly. From the first line of dialogue, to the music, to the camera work, his interactions, and especially Jack's performance, it all comes together to not only make a great entrance, but to tell us everything we need to know about him. It's what you want an introduction to do. It's stylish, it's entertaining, it's informative, and it sets the tone for his character and the movie. The flashback opening of Goodfellas is a good scene, and it's definitely integral to bringing us into that world, but as a character introduction for Henry Hill, it's not particularly impressive. Young Henry is just the person whose eyes we're seeing everything and everyone else through. We don't really get to know him, and definitely don't get the introduction to the far more interesting older version of him, of Henry, as played later by Ray Liotta later in the film. With The Departed, we get the great introduction that Jack's Frank Costello deserves.
Okay. We're going to move over to Cody. Cody, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
Henry Hill gets that introduction at the beginning to show the world where he gets sucked into and he gets environment. You learn everything you need to know about Henry, why he does it, where he goes over the top to help these guys, where all he wants to do, it doesn't matter about how much he gets in trouble with his parents or his school or anybody. He wants to please these guys because he believes this is the easiest way to get into this world. From rags to riches this is the way. We get that first shot of when he kills the guy in the trunk, and then those eyes, like, holy crap, my life has really gone in a totally different direction, because when it started off very easy, running mail, finding things, selling cigarettes, now it's this. It's crazy. You get it right out of the gate and you find this character and see where he goes. Frank Costello, product of my environment, that sling is showing up on what's happening in the situation. They convoluted by throwing him into scenes and characters that don't truly matter in the overall arc of the movie. And that's the issue with it. You don't learn about him. You learn what's happening in the situation, facing a loaded gun. They're cool one-liners, but at the end of the day, they don't treat me anything about Jack or about Frank. They don't treat me about that character that makes me invested or worried about this guy besides the shooting. That's it.
Okay. Whew, that was good. Very much enjoyed that. Good job, guys.
You'll be happy to hear, Cody, that watching your intro, I kind of feel like I want to watch the rest of the movie and give it another shot now. So you've succeeded, if nothing else, in that.
Can you not say that in front of Tim, because that might make him happy enough to write your name on the board if he hasn't already?
I have not written anything yet.
Oh, dang.
I'm still not watching the Godfather movies.
All right. You guys ready?
Yeah.
Mark,
Okay.
whenever you're ready, you can kick it off.
Okay. Yeah, this is really close. I was kind of going back and forth the entire time who to go for, and kind of thought the closing arguments would help me out, and they really didn't.
Oh, sorry.
I think I am just gonna give the slight edge to Cody. I mean, I will give Brian some props. This was a very evil thing that he did. Definitely picking a scene from one of Cody's favorite movies and just kind of having to bash him over the head with it. I think at the end of the day, I just kind of lean more towards kind of how Henry's introduction, I think, just kind of gives us a better idea of kind of what we're getting into as far as the whole movie's concerned. And I think that's kind of it, going with that and with the character. And I think that is kind of where I just leaned at the end, although it was pretty close. It's like this was like a 51-49 fight.
Jacoby.
Yeah, no, this was a great fight. This was awesome. It's my favorite fight so far, I think, because I think both of these guys had just two, I think, excellent arguments, in my opinion. Because Cody was talking about how his introduction was about like his environment around him is what made him who he was, and then Brian's argument was just like, this is who this guy is. So I had to go down to the arguments themselves, and I think who made a stronger case for tearing down the other person's arguments was Brian. Because I really liked how Cody's main crux basically at the beginning of his argument and his closing was saying, like, we're not learning anything about Frank at all. And that's how he kind of started. And then Brian went through line by line of every single moment in it and told us a different thing that it told us about Frank. And then Cody's response was, we still don't know who this guy is. But I just thought I don't remember these opening scenes very well, but I feel like I have a better understanding of who Frank is and why this is a good introduction for him. So slight edge to Brian, even though it was excellent arguments both ways.
All right. Well, this sucks. I agree with both of you that this was fantastic. Like I said, 51-49. I agree. I think that both picked excellent scenes. There was one thing that Brian said that I didn't quite agree with when he kept, I wouldn't say kept, I think he said it twice, where he hammered in we get the better introduction to the version of the character later with Ray Liotta. I don't give a fuck. It's the same character. It's just a different actor. Like, I don't care. So I kind of threw that out. And he didn't go too hard on that. It was the one thing, the one like big, not even big. I feel like it was the one thing that Brian said that I really strongly disagreed with. I do agree with Jacoby, though. I kind of had the same thought as Jacoby, and I went with Brian because I kind of had the same thoughts as someone who does know these scenes really well, but I actually haven't watched these movies in over a year. And thinking about just the scenes and the characters, the way that they were portrayed from the competitors tonight, I think Brian painted the better picture of overall the introduction of the character, of really painting the picture of who this character is. And I think Cody did the same thing for Henry. I think Brian did it just a little bit better. And I thought that like Jacoby said, Cody's defense against that was a little weak in my opinion. So I give Brian the point as well. So first split question of the night. Brian is up 2-1. We are going to move on to the next category, which was drafted by Brian. It was in the category of directors. And the question is, which Steven Spielberg film should get a sequel and why? Brian, you're kicking this off. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
The Fabelmans is not the first Spielberg film you think of when you think of well-suited for a sequel, but it's probably not even the fifth. But when you do think about it, it not only has the most potential for a worthwhile sequel, but also is the one that most deserves one. The Fabelman was Spielberg's autobiographical film that, while it used different names, told the story of his own youth using the specific events and touch points of his own life. It received great critical acclaim, including Oscar nominations for picture, screenplay, and directing, among others, but frustratingly ended right when it would have gotten the most interesting. We're telling Steven Spielberg's story, and we don't get to see him embark on his career as a filmmaker. It ends just as he gets his foot in the door of the industry in television. Chapter 2 would pick up there as he embarks on the next chapter of his life, grows as a filmmaker, finding his style, directing his first films, and I would probably end it as he releases his first blockbuster, the first blockbuster, which is Jaws, or this film's proxy version of that, and becomes one of the most sought-after filmmakers in the world. It would also explore the important relationships in his life in those seminal years and show us what inspired his passion and shaped him to become one of the all-time great filmmakers we have come to know and love.
Time. All right, we're going to move over to Cody. Cody, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
I think the movie that deserves the sequel is The Adventures of Tintin. It leaves on a cliffhanger alone. I think overall how technology has went with animation and how groundbreaking that movie was at the time, with the hands of Peter Jackson and Steven Spielberg behind it, I think can overall take that movie to the next level. I think there are so many more stories. There's so many more source materials. The movie ends with, "What's your thirst for adventure?" And it's unquenchable, is what he says. And then the scene goes. I want to go back into that world. I want to see Indiana Jones for kids, teenagers. I think The Adventures of Tintin is one of those unique movies that spans multiple generations and works for multiple days. It was more of an adulter side cartoon than we've had in a really long time. I think with his hand back in it is where I want to see it. And I think with animation, the opportunity is limitless. You don't have to go into, you don't have any constraints. You can just go and make the story that you need to tell.
Time. Okay. Thank you guys for not picking Ready Player One. Okay. You guys get a 5 minute when one of you starts talking.
So I think with Tintin, too much time has passed. If it went into production today, it would come out 15 years after the first one. And they have two choices. They can keep the animation style, which looked dated with the same dead-eye, uncanny valley things they had going on, or they can update the animation with current technology and have it looks way different than the first one. It's just too late. I could see like a live action take on Tintin might actually be interesting, but then it would be a reboot. It wouldn't be a sequel. The timing for mine is perfect. The actor Gabriel Labelle, who played the young version, he's aged a few years. He's in his early 20s now, which is exactly Spielberg's age when he started out with television, like Night Gallery. Spielberg was 25 when he made his first film, Duel, 29 when he made Jaws, which is where I would probably end the film. And so the timing alone makes this one better suited for a sequel than for Tintin.
My biggest problem with doing the Fablemans Part 2 is just an ego fest, jerk off fest. Like, what are they going to call Jaws? Orca? Like, they already changed it to seem like it's not him, but it is him. Like, I get that. And the biggest problem is, the interesting thing with Fablemans, the first one works so well because that side of his life is not very documented. It's talked about, it's rumored at, it's said, but we don't really get to see inside that life. All the stuff leading up to Jaws has been shown, has been talked about, has thing. This is just a cash grab to see movies get made because we love watching our favorite movies behind the scenes by other actors make the movies. It's just a weird thing. Tintin, even if you do update the technology, it doesn't have to. There's animations that jump fully forward. I'm staying animation, no live action, just direct copy to the next one. Yeah, technology has changed, but I think that would improve it. I think that would make it better. I think that would make it more interesting. And there's way more source materials. Spielberg would just be another, oh, it's my movie again about me. We know the shark doesn't work.
Yeah, Tintin has lots of stories, and those stories have already been adapted, not only from comics, but TV shows and movies in foreign territories. Yes, they aren't American films, so American films would want to see those, but they've at least been made. You talk about how Spielberg, everything's been well documented and is everything well known. Can you tell me anything about his career from when he started in television up to before Jaws? No, you can name a couple movies he's done, but you don't know anything about it. You can't tell me anything about the relationships he formed. It's a time in his life when he formed close friendships with people like Coppola, Lucas, Scorsese, De Palma. Who wouldn't want to be a fly on the wall to witness some of those young stories?
It's just this Hollywood thing of go, let's go experience those things that he's still living and still doing. It's just a weird thing. And he's going to do the thing where it's not about him, but about him. So Martin Scorsese is not Martin Scorsese. It's Mike Scally or whatever. It doesn't matter. He does this thing.
He used no, the
I think it's my turn to talk. That's interesting.
John Huston.
I think it's my turn to talk. That's interesting. But my thing is, you're doing this weird thing. You're doing these things. You're overlapping and just doing an ego fest on him to do a story. And there is probably, not that I know personally, but there are probably interviews. There's probably documentaries. There's probably stuff about Spielberg's early work that is out there that you can know about him. He's talked about him numerous times. You want to end it right at Jaws. Why can't we just see him make all Jaws? Like, there's the problem. You want to stuff all this into a movie. My problem is we got it because we didn't know it. We don't need to see it now.
Is it you say that, there's stuff out there. If you wanted to, you could look into this stuff. If there's stuff out there, you can look into the previous versions. They've already adapted the Tintin things, whether it be the comics or the TVs or the foreign films. There's plenty of that out there. So if you want to talk about seeking out stuff that's not already well known, you can do that. And as far as what?
It's about Spielberg. What deserves a sequel from Spielberg?
But Spielberg doesn't even like to do sequels very often. He did a one-off with Lost World, but otherwise, the only ones were Indian. Even that he ditched by the last one. So it'd have to be something he really, really deserving and worth his time and attention for him to do one. When somebody else does sequels to his films, it doesn't work out well. You have the Jaws films, even most of the Jurassic Parks, besides the ones he did were received less favorably. So, I mean, you only get a sequel from him. What should get a sequel is one that he's going to actually care about and put his full heart into.
Yeah, that's the problem, because then he gets creative control over what his story is, and that's maybe not true. Other people's accounts of him don't get to be told in a correct way, only by his opinion. I don't want to see that. I'll watch in a documentary. I don't need to see him dictate his life on screen again for us to see. I liked his family dynamics. I love the interesting stuff. The film stuff didn't truly work for me, and to see him remake the movies that we already know are made, I don't think works. Adventures of Tintin, I know that there's other things out there. Disney movies are remade from other medias all the time, but I want to see where this adventure goes. I want to see where it continues, because the source material is out there, and with his brain and his direction, I think we're into a better animated movie heading with his hands than anybody else's.
It's a source material that very few people in America care about. And with Spielberg, everyone loves Spielberg. They like seeing this part of his life that we didn't see. So they'd want to see more of like what made him the person that he is, what made him the director that he is, that we've all come to know and love. And yes, it would culminate in the release of the Jaws, or like I said, the film's proxy of it, but you would get to see what kind of formed him into the filmmaker he is today.
Time. All right. Cody, I had to think about whose question this was. You get to go first. 1 minute when you start.
his movie sounds very sporadic and jumped around. He wants to start in TV and jump in Jaws. How much time are we spending in Jaws? It's just stuff that we already know. We know how Jaws was made. We heard all about what Jaws was made. I don't need to see somebody else talk about Jaws. It makes no sense. Yes, I don't care if the source material is not all source material ever. I don't know a lot of source material that comes out. But when I watch the movie, I enjoy it. Spielberg has a really hand of picking the first one, ends it on a cliffhanger, bring it back out, run it back out. And Indiana Jones for Children works so well. And it worked well. It was interesting. It was cutting edge. And now technology has moved 14, 15 years. What can he do in that media now that he was able to cutting edge on the first one? It has the room for way more possibilities than Where the Fableman 2. We got his family dynamic. We got those interesting points. That was the beautiful thing of the first one. I don't need to see it when he's currently still alive and making movies and gets creative control over his own life. That's just weird storytelling.
Time. All right. We're going to bring in Brian. Brian, you have 1 minute to close when you start talking.
The movie's not about making Jaws. That's just where I said it would end it. But this later phase of Spielberg's career has seen him largely move away from the blockbuster adventure films and instead focused on the smaller stories that he's more passionate about. And none is more passionate than telling his own story, with the most interesting part of his life still untold at the end of Fableman's, offering us a chapter 2 would let us see how he grew into one of the greatest directors. The story is there, the timing is perfect, star Gabriel LaBelle is just the right age, and most importantly, it's a story Spielberg would be passionate about telling and fully invested. A Tintin 2 is a good decade too late to happen. The world has moved on, and especially and thankfully, the animation has moved on from its brief obsession with that mocap style that it uses. I'd rather see a story that exists for a reason rather than one that's just cashing in on a franchise. The question is not which film, made enough money to greenlight a sequel, things like that. Is which film should get a sequel. And Fableman's Chapter 2 is a story that deserves to be told. Not a sequel for sequel's sake. It's the next phase of his story. Not only a story that audiences would love to see, but one that Spielberg himself would be fully invested in with his whole heart instead of just another adventure in a franchise, which he's already done.
Time. Okay. Bring in L Judges. Maggie's back from a run, in case you guys were wondering.
That's good.
Oh, thank God.
I was
about to
my
call
mind.
the police.
Yeah.
She didn't die out there. We were worried about you.
Well, I hope if she did, you wouldn't just be sitting here judging the debate. So
You're like, hold on. He's like, I'm being attacked by like a bear, but I need
I
to
probably
finish
wouldn't know
one
for a
question
while.
forward.
I need you guys to wrap it up. Come on.
You were attacked
It's
by a
all
dog
speed rounds.
tonight? Like they wanted to kiss you?
He had a ball in his mouth.
Oh, he wanted to play.
Yeah.
A
And then
puppy.
I was attacked by a puppy the other night.
A pit bull?
Again, not a very friendly pit bull. Wanted to run with me. And I said, "Oh, Stevie, you have to stay at your house."
Oh my god. All right. I'm going first, right? Yep. Okay, good stuff. I went with Cap and Cody Crunch. It's been a while since I've thrown that one out, but I went with Cody. I thought Cody kind of ran away with this. Like, I think Cody on paper has the better pick. I think that Brian's movie actually sounds really interesting. I like that pitch. It's kind of funny. Like when he picked it, I'm like, oh, this will be his not like pitch, but this is going to be what he's going to say his movie's about. And I was totally right. And I liked that. But I think Cody perfectly encapsulated what we could get out of Tintin. I really wanted him to bring up that the actors are still there and work with the directors consistently. Andy Serkis has is very close with Peter Jackson, and Spielberg and Jackson obviously worked on that together, but that didn't come up. But I didn't hear Brian really refute it at all. But I thought Cody's whole argument for the updated animation wouldn't be a net negative the way that Brian was kind of making it say, just because it's newer. Because again, we get the animation in X-Men 97 is way better than the original 90s show, but it still is a sequel to that. So that didn't totally work for me. I thought Cody did a good job on this one, so I gave the point to Cody. Mark?
Yeah. Like I said, I'm just terrible at doing the lead up. I Cody as well. I feel like this match is going in an interesting direction when Brian had I I had a thought and I just kind of lost it.
I love those moments.
It well, like just know, Brian, you made an interesting point. I forgot about it. Like maybe if I remember it after I stop talking. Uh, although throughout like Brian's main argument of well, like we can see the rest of Spielberg this section of Spielberg's career, and Cody's main argument was kind of who cares. And I mean I kind of sided with that one. Like I don't like it's well documented. We kind of got the parts of Spielberg's story that we didn't really know. Like what would like another movie like kind of going, oh, that's what the like interesting thing was. It was like Spielberg doesn't like making sequels, and like oh thinks something about he cares about, which would be his life. And like okay, like it which even then was kind of like, well, I mean, I don't know. That's in like Cody kind of brought into the like, well, the Fablemans was also sort of a movie like he partially made up too. So like would he kind of make up parts of the like this autobiographical sequel he's doing? Like I don't know. Like it just I kind of felt the same way. I was very much side with Cody for the majority of this one.
I did forget to say I wanted to add before Jacoby went that I did also like Cody's point at the top just about like the family dynamic was what kind of like his interactions with the family like that we didn't know about. That's the part that's interesting. Mark kind of alluded to that. That was a big point for me too. Sorry. Jacoby, your vote doesn't count. Where are you going?
Doesn't matter, but I also did go with Cody. Two, I thought really good arguments from both of them. I liked both the way that they were shaped. I liked the idea of, okay, it's how Steven Spielberg became young Spielberg, ending with Jaws. And I liked, Tintin is the next stage of that Indiana Jones for kids. So it had to really come down to like the arguments for me and how they attacked each other. And Brian seems like main argument of Tintin, which is like too much time has passed in the animation. So like that didn't hold as much weight for me because I thought Cody defended against that well, especially in the realm of animation of how things are better now that we can animate that. And then even though Cody I thought was just mean in terms of breaking down about how it's like a jerk off fest of everything about like what we'd see of Spielberg and it's well documented, even though I didn't I necessarily agree with that, I thought that was a stronger argument to break that down. So I did go with Cody.
My bad.
All right.
I lose my way in that. My apologies.
Well, with Cody winning that point, we have guaranteed at least one bonus question. So good on you, Cody. You said you wanted Brian to beat you in the main thing. Well, that can't happen now. So we're going to take out Mark and Jacoby. We got one more prep question. It is in the category of DreamWorks. Bucky's pumped. He's squeaking. The question is, what actor would have been better for the lead character in a DreamWorks film? So Cody, because you drafted this, you get to go first. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
I think there's a really underrated movie in the early 2000s from DreamWorks, and it's called Over the Hedge. It has so many great character actors throughout the movie. It's a situational where the raccoon has to like collect food and convince all these other animals. The problem is it's the main character. It's Bruce Willis. Now, I know we've learned stuff over the time about his condition, and I feel bad for that. But this is the time where everybody considered him checked out. And you can tell this fully through RJ as the raccoon. He is checked out through this movie. He does not portray any of the emotions that he needs to throughout the arc. He portrays Bruce Willis, maybe diehard Bruce Willis because he has to do missions, but other than that, not a good version. I'm replacing him with Sam Rockwell. Sam Rockwell has the tonal switch to present cool, but also scared. Nervous, but calm, cool, collected. He's able to work through. He can convince people to do things with him. He's a great voice actor. He's able to jump into that role, be animated, be over the top, present this way, and not be annoying while doing it, which I think is key.
Time. Okay. We are going to bring in Brian for his 1 minute opening when he starts talking.
DreamWorks Animation has always valued getting the biggest names they can over picking the right voice for the role. One glaring example of this is in 2003 when DreamWorks released a film based on the literary character of Sinbad, legendary Persian sailor from Baghdad made famous by tales of Arabian Nights. And to voice this Middle Eastern role, they got Midwest boy Brad Pitt, maybe the whitest man in Hollywood. Pitt's voice work was universally panned as being flat and bland and lifeless, and one of the main reasons the movie wasn't well received. Just casting a bigger star was clearly the wrong move, and this movie could have benefited greatly from casting someone more suited to the role. A much better option at the time was Oded Fair, who most people will know as Ardeth Bay from The Mummy and Mummy Returns. In 2003, just 2 years outside of that big breakthrough. He had experience playing charismatic, swashbuckling characters. He's of Middle Eastern descent and has since shown he can do great voice work in multiple animated projects from DC and Marvel, among others. Casting him in this role would have benefited the film, it would have benefited Fair's career continuing his mummy heat, and it would have had the added benefit of Sinbad not later being frequently cited example of cultural appropriation and of whitewashing in movies.
Time. I wonder if you picked this just because Jacoby's here. Guys.
He was not the judge yet when I picked that.
That's fair. That is fair. Guys, 5-minute free form when one of you starts.
I'm so proud of you. The growth that you have, because this is normally an argument you would never make, but apparently today you want to make it. That's fine. Overall, I don't think Brad Pitt is not the problem in this movie. Not even close to the problem in this movie. The problem is the script in this movie. The problem is the effects in this movie. And if you add him in there, and I love that you added this off the height of his career. Have you seen what this guy's done? Nothing. Mummy, Deuce Bigelow, male gigolo. The man's not a very good actor, and he's not shown up in any voice acting whatsoever, or straight to DVD, nothing else. He does not do any of those roles, and that's a problem when you're putting this. You're putting Brad Pitt at the height of his power, a suave, charismatic guy. There's nobody else that I would want in this role of Brad Pitt, because guess what? Everybody else in this role are the exact way. So you're going to drop one thing, and every time, I will not pronounce his name correctly. Every time he shows up in a film, he does a goofy, over the top, because I guess that was Hollywood at the time, over accent, where it would be totally lost in this film.
You talk about how his career didn't go anywhere. He didn't do any major roles after that. That's part of the point. I think that if they cashed in on him, if they'd taken somebody, he could have played off that mummy heat and possibly continued it and got a better career. And he has done voice acting. Yes, they were direct-to-video things for DC and Marvel, among other things,
Okay.
but he's done multiple voice roles. He did a good job. They kept hiring back again and again and again because he can do voice roles. Brad Pitt, his voice in this movie was flat and bland and lifeless. It was like a dude, you could just see him stand in a booth reading. His charisma didn't come through in voice acting because it's a separate kind of art. He later went on to Megamind, but it kind of fit Megamind. First of all, it was like almost 10 years later, so he improved at it. But also because that character was supposed to be just kind of, it was Brad Pitt. It was just this pretty boy celebrity is who his character was in that movie. For Oded Fair, now I'll hit this right at the top. I know ethnicity is certainly not everything when it comes to voice acting, especially back in 2003. But if we could hypothetically go back and recast one role, which is exactly what we're doing today, especially knowing how it looks 2 decades later, this one's a prime target and being more faithful to his ethnic background and just one of the many benefits.
So, yeah, you're saying straight to DVD. He was in The Mummy and a Batman Ultimate First Mutants. He didn't do anything.
Multiple Batman, multiple Justice League.
It's in his listing. It's in his listing. I'm not looking at it. They are straight to DVD. They are straight to DVD. He does not have any major roles. He does not have any situations. He's overacting in mostly everything that he does. He's not a well-known thing. And Brad Pitt is charismatic. Your point of the argument is to tear down Brad Pitt. I get that. That's no problem. But at the end of the day, he is charismatic. He's the best part of Sinbad. He is the person that you look for, and he's the most entertaining. He's the only reason you can survive that entire film. My thing is, RJ needs to be a character that is a raccoon, that is sly, that's able to steal things, to be able to go through, to convince people. Bruce Willis doesn't do that at all. Bruce Willis is a walking cardboard cutout. That's just who he is at this time. He's doing like 16 blocks also. Sam Rockwell is a character actor that you want in this role that could actually be an entertaining point. Every time it went to Bruce Willis, it's like, oh God, can they pass the torch to somebody else? That's why you want Sam Rockwell to take that role. He's a better fit for that character.
Honestly, Rockwell is a good choice for RJ. I don't disagree, but Bruce Willis wasn't that bad. He would fit just fine. The question is, which role would benefit more? The voice work in Sinbad needed huge improvement badly. The difference in recasting would make a bigger difference. Plus, Rockwell is already the voice in another DreamWorks main character in The Bad Guys. And DreamWorks doesn't use the same main character. They use them for like supporting roles, like Seth Rogen does more one, things like that, but only in supporting roles. They've never double dipped for a main character.
Wow, that's a bold argument. I'm putting it before Bad Guys ever happened. That would be the situation. So maybe he wouldn't get the Bad Guys.
Have him in the role.
I'm fine with that. I wouldn't get him in the Bad Guys. That's all right. I'm okay with this argument. My thing is, Odin Fair is not a good actor. He isn't. If he was, he would have stayed around. He didn't. He fell into straight to DVDs, 2 releases. He doesn't have that voice. He would stick out like a sore thumb. He would overact. We don't know how he would be actually in feature length straight to theater animated movies. He's never been cast at a huge studio. You're just casting him because, oh, it's a Sinbad character of Middle East, and I need to get a Middle East guy. There's better Middle Eastern actors. You pick
That's
the
just
one guy
one
because you
other
like the
aspect
Mummy.
that it helps. His voice work was fine. And like I said, they rehired him multiple times on DC and Marvel projects, and it doesn't matter if he went to DVD or theaters. It doesn't
Yes, it
matter. He
does.
still
That's a
did them
huge
because he did them
difference.
well. Pitt
You
was
think
bad.
it's the same
DreamWorks had
paycheck?
already tried casting Pitt once in Spirit as the narrative. They decided he didn't work in that, and that was a white guy role. They cast him in this one just because his name had
He's a
gotten even
whole-
bigger by this point.
Oh, white guy role. It's a horse.
Not the narrator.
That's Matt Damon. Matt Damon
Just sucked at it.
You're ridiculous. Brad Pitt's charismatic. You're picking a guy that's not a good actor. I don't know what you're talking about. He plays a horse. Weird.
Sorry. Sorry. Oh my god. That's a horse. Oh my god. That was fucking funny. All right. Ryan, you get you're starting. You get 1 minute to close when you start talking.
First of all, you call Under the Hedge underrated. When that movie made almost $400 million, Sinbad didn't even crack 100. So that one, it clearly needed improvement in any place it could get. I actually agree with Cody. Sam Rockwell would have made a decent RJ, but the fact of the matter is Bruce Willis did actually do fine in the role. He wasn't harmful to it. And the film was a huge success with him in the lead. Swapping Bruce out for Sam Rockwell would ultimately only make a very small difference in the quality and the success of the film and the character. Sinbad Legend of the Seven Seas was a bomb financially and critically, and the biggest criticisms of the film were Brad Pitt's flat, lifeless voice work and the whitewashing of the character. Had DreamWorks just looked for more than a name, they could have had a great pick with Oded Fair. He was hot off the Mummy films, and his personality, his experience with swashbuckling types, and yes, even his accent would have added so much to the character and improved the film greatly. I don't care about his live-action career. In doing this role, he would have fit it perfectly. And while I fully acknowledge 2003 was a different time, recasting roles now, as we are with hindsight, is an added bonus. We can fix an error in representation and let the story be true to the actual literary character. The film is better served, the character is better served, and the audience is better served.
Time. Okay. We're going to bring in Cody. Cody, you have 1 minute to close when you start talking.
His only takedown for RJ is because Bruce Willis did fine and it made $400 million. That doesn't change the fact that he doesn't fit the character type that he needs to do in RJ. RJ has to be nervous at times when he's facing Nick Nolte the Bear. He has to be cunning to convince everybody to do and go into scary situations. Sam Rockwell is that character. Sam Rockwell is that interesting person to have that emotion in voices. He does do animated work that we actually see on live screen. He picked Odin Fair because he likes the Mummy. That's the situation. He's an overactor. He's not that good. He's good in the Mummy. Great. That does not show me that he could be in this situation. He's not a pirate in the Mummy. He doesn't sail on a ship and go into and steal the book of secrets at the end of it doesn't make any sense why he picks him. He's willing to do this because he wants to go back in time and fix Hollywood from stop whitewashing. But guess what? That was the time. Brad Pitt's not the problem in that film. Catherine Zeta-Jones is the problem. The CGI is the problem. The script is the problem. And Brad Pitt's able to salvage that the entire way with his good performance.
Time. Okay. Payson, why are you here?
Kick him out.
Like, I don't fucking
Kick him
care.
out.
I was just wondering. All right. What am I doing? I'm not going first, and I haven't even written anything down. I was about to start just fucking talking. Okay. You guys ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah.
Jacoby, you're starting this one out.
Okay. All right. I swear to God on all that is holy. I know I did not pick this because of the Mummy. I swear to God. I know it's going to look like that. I know it is. And I promise I took that out of it. I did go with Brian. And it's not because he said mummy heat about 15,000 times. I promise you that. But the question, what actor would have been better for the lead character in a DreamWorks role? And the way that Brian presented the character itself of who Sinbad was and why Oded Fair would be good for that character was what brought it forward. I thought the middle part of this argument seemed to get a little messy with what their capabilities of. I thought they both proved that they could both do voice work, because I do know that Oded Fehr is an animated voice actor, and I do know that Sam Rockwell is an animated voice actor. So those kind of canceled each other out. So then I had to go back to better for the lead character itself, and I thought Brian painted that picture with Oded Fehr of why he fits Sinbad specifically more so than Sam Rockwell fits RJ more than Bruce Willis. I swear. I promise. I swear.
Interesting stuff. Jacoby said a lot of things that I didn't even think about, and I happen to agree with. I went with Cody. At the end of the day, for me, when I thought back on Brian's arguments against Sam Rockwell, it was tough because Brian basically said, like, Bruce Willis actually wasn't that bad in the movie. Like, he doesn't need to be replaced. And Cody says, no, Bruce Willis is bad. And then Brian said, Brad Pitt is bad in this movie. And Cody was like, no, he's good. He's real good. So, like, I was like,
Maybe we
And I
should have
thought-
said it that way in the debate. One more fun.
yeah, right. And I thought Cody just actually, in my opinion, gave a little bit more as far as, like, even taking out all the, like, maybe this is a discussion to have in the off season about, like, the straight to DVD and everything. Like, it didn't affect my choice or anything, because I obviously voted for Cody. So, like, it didn't work one way or the other, but the fact that he was cast in animated DC Marvel things in the future didn't matter to me, because at the end of the day, it was like, I'm thinking about it like, if we're retroactively casting him at that time, what is he doing? And yeah, he's hot off the Mummy movies and stuff. But I thought that Cody did a good job of just doing the same thing for Sam Rockwell. So it was a weird one. I thought Jacoby actually brought up a lot of great points that I didn't think about, but that's why we have 3 judges. And so it is 1-1 on this one. Mark, who is the lead going into the bonus round?
Yeah, I mean, kind of felt similar to you, Tim. Kind of whenever like, Bruce Willis, like, he's okay. Like, actually, he's bad. Like, I mean, I didn't like it. That really didn't affect me either way. Like, I get it. Like, they're good, bad, whatever. Just it didn't affect my argument either way. I just kind of sat there, looked at the question, and who really, I feel like, what movie really benefits from, like, putting in someone else? And I did kind of feel like Cody, I think, ironed that out a little bit more with Rockwell, where in a sense where RJ needs to, where I feel like there needs, like, he made a good argument where, like, the RJ character needs a little bit more depth, and that character needs to, like, kind of go through like more emotions. And I think, like, he kind of ironed out at least how Rockwell just works better in that role, and I think he highlights out at least that movie's at least a little bit better. Where I'm still not entirely sure, like, how replacing Sinbad is, like, really all, like, kind of makes that movie that much better.
Okay. All right. Well, that is where we're at for the prep round questions. So we are going to move into the bonus round. Cody's in the lead 3-2. Here is how this is going to work. Because we need to get to 4 points, we do have 2 bonus round questions ready to go. One from Fandom, one from Melee. I randomized which one will be going first. And then I randomized the categories for Fandom and for Melee to from the remaining categories that weren't drafted to decide what would be the category for the question. So what's going to happen is I'm going to say the category, and then I am going to read the question. Once I have repeated the question a second time, You guys can answer the question. Whoever answers the question first will be going first. And you can have as much time as you need to answer the question. Once you have your answer, though, please say it aloud. Whoever says their answer first will be going first. You each get 45 seconds and then 30 seconds. Gentlemen, any questions about how it's going to work? Okay, so the side of Fanzone that was drafted first was Fandom. And the category was sci-fi icons. And your question is simply, who is the best sci-fi icons character? Again, who is the best sci-fi icons character?
Dr. Emmett Brown.
Okay.
Well, let's just keep in the family. Marty McFly.
Ooh,
All right. This is going to be fun.
interesting.
All right, I'm going to say on screen, guys. Cody, you said your answer first. You go first. You have 45 seconds, Cody, when you start talking.
I think Dr. Emmett Brown is by far one of the best characters, not in just film, but in sci-fi characters, because he's the emotional arc throughout the film. He is the reason why Back to the Future works. He's the mentor. He's a friend. He's the moral compass. He's the funny character that pops in. He's the creative genius that goes back in time. He grows throughout the series of 3 films. He expands, fights with the battle of time and space. Overall, Marty McFly is literally the character that has to be dependent on Doc Brown. If it isn't for Doc Brown, he's just a kid that sits in the schoolyard and has nothing else to do. Doc Brown incorporates him in every aspect of his universe. If it's not him, it could just be another kid. Dr. Emmett Brown is the crucial character and best. Christopher Lloyd is a great performance.
All right. Brian, 45 seconds.
Marty is the heart of this entire franchise. Marty is a character who we know he loves his family, he loves his friends. He's fun, he's entertaining. He's kind of the kid in all of us we wish we could be. He's supposed to play rock star. He's smart, and he has so many ways that he gets involved in this adventure. And yes, he changes more than anyone else through the thing in the movie. He learns to value different things. He learns to love his family. And Doc Brown may be the one who was the catalyst of all these things, but Doc Brown is not the reason that makes Marty who he is. Marty is just a great character because he gets to go on these adventures. He gets to go through time. He gets to go through these different eras of life and see different eras of his own family and interact with his own family. It makes him interesting. It makes him entertaining, and it makes him fun to watch. I'll stop there for now.
Time. Okay, Cody, 30 seconds.
I think the biggest takeaway from Marty McFly is probably Michael J. Fox's performance, his lack of emotions, his range that is very dependent on the situations he's put in, but not overall great performance. It's Doc that drives the entire story. He's the interesting part. He's the funny character, also the serious character. When he stays behind in the past to stay with his love, that changes who he is as a character. He changes who Marty is. He changes who the entire world, how they look in time and space and inventions. He is that character and the catalyst and the character you need.
Time. Brian, 30 seconds.
Doc is the catalyst for the events in this movie, but he's not the base of the movie. He's not the best part of that movie. You say Doc is the best, he has the emotional arc. He doesn't really have much emotional arc. It's Marty that has an emotional arc. You say he grows. No, it's Marty that grows. Doc doesn't really grow that much besides just deciding to stay, in the past with in the Wild West. You say he expands. No, it's Marty that expands. Everything you've said applies more to my character than applies to yours. Marty is the more fun character, more entertaining character. He's the character you want to enjoy and watch, and that's what being the best is about, not just who drives the plot.
Time. Okay. That was funny. Cody did one of his famous woo-hoos, and Brian laughed. Oh, that was funny. All right. You know why I like going to the bonus round in title matches? Because I don't have to start in. Normally, I have to start these. I think I go second. Go second. Who went?
I went first last time, so.
Oh yeah.
Oh no, you have the order mixed up. There you go.
Yeah. So I do go second. Okay, cool.
1 sec. I'm not done yet.
You're good.
Okay.
All righty. Let's start with. You said you went first last time, Jacoby? Yeah, Mark closed it out. So then, Mark, you're going first.
Cool. Okay. I went with Brian. I think he kind of got it for me, at least with his last 30 seconds. I think for the majority of what Cody threw at him, he kind of threw back at him low. Like, it is actually more true for Marty. Marty really is the heart of his own franchise. He's kind of the main catalyst everything goes through. Like, he's the one who has the arc. So like that was kind of where kind of went with me. It's pretty close, honestly, the whole way through. But I think he just kind of gave a little seal at the end.
Okay, Jacoby.
Yeah, both their arguments were seemingly almost exactly the same. They described their characters as like the emotional heart of the franchise. They're the ones who drive the story forward. They travel through time. They go through all this stuff. I went with Cody. Actually, I know my marker's dying, so I put Cody. Just because when we were getting into the argument of like Doc didn't change that much, all he did was decide to stay back in the old West when before, he didn't with his love. I mean, that's like a pretty big character change, but the arguments were so similar that this one really could have gone either way. For me, I just thought Cody gave me a little bit more in terms of the description of Doc, which is tough because I know Brian was coming after me to say like, yeah, everything what he just said applies to my character, but I just felt it was better explained by Cody in this round.
When both of these players say that they don't like speed rounds, well, you can tell why. It's a totally different game. It really is. And the prepped collectedness that was once there is now gone, and I love it. I went with Brian. And I disagree with Jacoby a little bit, but I agree with Jacoby a little bit that Brian's the first 15 seconds of his closing 30 I did not enjoy. He basically just said, yeah, well, Marty's got the better arc. Well, tell me why he has the better arc. I know you don't have a lot of time to do that, and he didn't. But I thought his last 10 seconds where he said, you not only does he have those better things, but he's funny and you enjoy watching him more. And it's not just about driving the plot forward. It's also about all these other added things that you enjoy seeing about Marty. That was why I gave him the point. So that means we are tied 3-3. We're going into the final question of the match. It is in the category on the side of Melee. The category is comedy. The question is, what actor or actress has the best comedy filmography? So what actor or actress has the best comedy filmography?
Bill Murray.
Jim Carrey.
All right. Got Jim Carrey going up against Bill Murray. Brian spoke first, so he's going to be going first. Guys, same rules apply. Brian, you get 45 seconds when you start talking.
Bill Murray has amassed a filmography across several decades of great comedies, starting from his early stuff with things like Stripes, moving on through decades into his resurgence with the Wes Anderson movies. He's done multiple movies with Wes Anderson. He's appeared in small roles in everything from Tim Burton's Ed Wood to Zombieland, Little Shop of Horrors, Tootsie, a good supporting role in that. In more leads, he's got Groundhog Day and Scrooge. I know I'm just listing off movies, but this is all about filmographies. And every one of those ones, he is perfect for it. He's the main role. He carries films. He's great when he's in supporting roles, but overall in his filmography, he's been able to amass the most variety. He's managed to amass the best quality in his movies, with very few misses. I mean, he's done some voice work that hasn't done as well, but his live action comedies is what we're really focused on here. And he's such a variety. It's great.
All right. Cody, 45 seconds.
I think overall the largest than life character comedy actor is Jim Carrey. By far, from Dumb and Dumber, Man on the Moon, Ace Ventura, The Mask, Cable Guy, Bruce Almighty, even when he's in The Grinch, Liar Liar, Yes Man. Yes, all of his films are widely funny, and it's mainly because of him. He drives the entire force. He has that entire comedic work. Besides all the stuff he's been voice acted work in, he has a filmography that if you want to go into in comedy is laugh for laugh. When he picked best comedy filmographer Bill Murray, that's a fine character, but he picked a lot of dramedy comedies which mow the line. It's not just comedy. He's not the movies that he also mentioned. He's a lot of the straight man in those movies. He's not the over the top funny guy. He's not the comedic relief. Jim Carrey is the laugh per second every time, and his put hits after hits.
Brian, 30 seconds.
Comedy is comedy, whether it's romantic comedy, whether it's drama comedy, it's still comedy, and it's kind of part of his comedy filmography. And those all support so much of a great comedy. And most of them are straight comedies anyway. As far as Jim Carrey in most of his films is kind of one note. They're kind of a lot of the same movie, which some of them are very funny. But the problem is he does the same thing over and over and over again. You are not getting as impressive as filmography when he's just kind of replaying the same kind of character. Not to mention you have duds like Burt Wonderstone, Dumb and Dumber 2, things like this in there that are really not fun with Dick and Jane. I mean, he's not even good in all his movies.
Time. Cody, 30 seconds.
I think if you look at anybody's filmography, they're going to have misses, but when the hits are hits, that's when they're crucial. And I think when they mix the line between more drama than comedy, I think that hurts your overall argument. Your guy, Bill Murray, The Man Who Knew Too Much, Larger Than Life, all critically bad points of his career, overall comedies. In the Wes Anderson stuff, he's not the slapstick guy. He's not. And if you want to talk about one note, he's the grumpy old man that does situational comedy. He's the one note character more times than not. Yes, Jim Carrey is the over the top, the goofy, the loud, the voices, but that's what works in comedy.
Time. Oh, for the love of God. Okay. What a way to close it out. I can finally close my stopwatch. Which, by the way, can anyone guess which fight I let you guys go an extra minute on?
Spielberg?
No.
I can guess all five, but
you guys went 6 minutes on X-Men.
Nice.
Well, as long as it's one that I won, I'll let it stand. I won't object.
Right. I really don't want to do another show after this.
I'm still thinking. Sorry, guys.
You're good.
This is fun, Cody. Don't want to do it again tomorrow or anything, but
that's what you're calling it. Oh, nice.
Well, I haven't been here before, so you've done this.
That's fair. That's fair.
All right. Oh, am I going first? God damn it. Well, actually, no. I feel better about that then. Then it's not my fault. Whatever happens. This was interesting. This was great. I would have loved to see this as a full fight. Because you guys really brought the heat. Obviously, it's the final question. I think you guys also painted different pictures. You had something for each. I thought every point was kind of rebutted and rehit, and Cody was going for more like the big slapstick hilarious joke a minute thing and embraced that, and Brian was like, no, like Bill Murray is like in big roles and small roles and all these different types of directors and stuff. It doesn't need to be big and crazy for him to be great and have the great filmography. They both talked about duds on each side. No one mentioned Rock the Casbah. I was pretty upset about that myself. And Brian never brought up fucking Groundhog Day, which surprised the shit out of me. Not that it matters. He brought up like 80 other movies, but ultimately I went with Brian. I thought that Brian's point about it could be a dramedy, it could be a romantic comedy, it can be just a straight comedy, and he plays the straight man a lot, and he's done the stuff like when he brought up Zombieland, and he's done all these different types of roles and different varied movies, which makes the better filmography. That was kind of why I landed with Brian. Mark.
Listen, you mentioned Rock the Casbah. I mean, like didn't mention Aloha. I mean, like that's right there.
Is he in that? Oh shit.
Oh yeah. Well, sorry to say, it's gonna all come down to you, Jacoby. I went with Cody.
Oh Jesus.
I would say the part of the argument I think I glommed on the most, 'cause I think Brian had a good argument, at least kind of bringing it like he's in a lot of stuff and he's good in a lot of stuff. I kind of landed a little bit more with Cody's arguments of like Jim Carrey has the highest highs, and he's also the driving force on most of the best stuff, which is I think kind of where like I kind of leaned Cody for this one.
All right, Jacoby, you're deciding it. Who's the champ after this?
Oh man, this is great for my second time judging. Love it. No, both speed rounds are hard. Both have great arguments. Both got everything they needed to do in this short amount of time, and I guess it just comes down to how they structured everything and the takedowns of each other. They both named a bunch of movies for what they for each of their comedic actors, and what I don't even know how to tease this. I gave it to Brian. I did, and the reason is because Brian made his point about its variety. It's all these different types of movies that he is in. Cody came back with. He said a lot of it's in dramedy, a lot of it's it's for all these sort of things. And then, but Brian retorted with that, saying like comedy is comedy. You can toe the line and that sort of things. And him presenting that variety of what Bill Murray can do in a filmography was stronger for me than Jim Carrey's, who is very one note, which they kind of acknowledge as the guy throughout. But the variety of the comedy made for the better comedy filmography for me. So I gave it to Brian.
All right. Well, that means your winner and new Fanzone debate champion is Brian Michaels. We are going to quick, if I can, Jacoby, do you have a second?
Oh, yeah.
I know you got to go. I want to get some quick, before we get into the post-match interviews, final thoughts from Jacoby before we talk to the players.
Yeah, no, of course. No, that was just a great fight. I just think overall I said at the beginning that these are two competitors who have very different styles, and you can tell that way with the questions for everything of how they approached every bit questions, and speed round sucks for in a lot of aspects, because you have people who just both of these fighters dominated certain questions, like hands down, right? Like through everything. But then when you have 8 questions, it could go either way. Sometimes they won't go your way. Both of them always fought well, I think throughout. So, I'm sorry to Cody, because I know his reign is undisputed as probably the best to ever do this. But at the end of the day, it's like at that final speed round question, and Brian just kind of cinched it there at the end. So it was a great fight. It was happy to be here. I loved watching them fight. But
Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna go into post-match interviews. Jacoby, if you got to head out.
yeah, I do. Good job. Not to hear any sadness or anything like that. So, but thank you for having me.
Of course, thanks, Jacoby. We're gonna bring in Cody first. Cody, obviously not fun to lose, especially in the title match ring. Every champion has to deal with it at some point. It's just the way that it is. I feel pretty confident in saying this is the best title match you've been in your performance across the board, just knowing the behind the scenes too, like talking to you about just like not necessarily like about your arguments, but just about how much you were prepping for Brian and how much you wanted to prepare. This is the only time I think you've been pushed this far in a title match. And I thought the performance you turned in was really, really fantastic. Obviously it's not fun that happened in a loss then. But I thought this was great nonetheless, and that you played great. What are your immediate thoughts coming out of it?
I'm very competitive, so I'm not happy. But I don't like. The weird thing is, like, of the judges tonight, normally I have like complaints. I only have one disagreement, which I think is rare for me. Normally, anytime I lose, I think you're all idiots. But it's like I've spoke this openly. We're in the chat. I spoke openly. These questions were my Achilles heel. I felt like a lot of them out of my wheelhouse, which was fine. I don't get to pick the question, so I have to play within the realm that I'm given, and every other fighter has to do the same thing. So I'm not mad whatsoever. That's why the X-Men question I thought was really convoluted and weird, because like he can pick Taylor Kitsch, but now he can just recap. Like, what's the point of it? It was just a weird argument. So that wasn't even the one I had a problem with. The Marty McFly one and the Doc Brown is the one I'm just so confused on, because he just repeated like, that's mine and that's mine and that's mine, but doesn't explain how that's mine. So I thought that was just a weird argument. But overall, Brian won. He won 2 speed round questions regardless of how it went. You do this. I wanted the defense streak, but I knew at some point it was going to catch up to me, because like, you know, fatigue or just like hearing the person fight as a champion all the time, like that, like he's a new voice too. It helps. Like he comes at arguments different. But yeah, I prepped harder than I've ever prepped for anybody. And I still almost was down 2-3 going into the thing. So even prep didn't help. But overall, I'm happy for Brian. I really am happy for Brian. He has sat on that desk, judged so many debates, been so crucial for this league to continue and be a force and still be around. I don't know if Tim and Mark and Brian don't like unite and do this together, like I don't know if this league continues. So Brian's very crucial in that. I think also sitting back forever and hearing me bitch and moan for a while, he's able to like find a good strategy to kind of counteract me. And I think he did that tonight. But he takes it serious, and that's all I've ever asked for anybody in this league. I hope that, and I'm not going to sit there and be like, well, I had to work this week and I had 3 children and I had an exam and I was performing open heart surgery 20 minutes before this match started. No, Brian kicked my ass. If we're talking about it in speed round, he kicked my ass. I'm terrible at speed rounds. I won 4. I went with Kirk. I went with, I think, Jacoby at the time. I went with people. It's going to catch up to me. I'm a bad speed round fighter. I have to change that a part of my game if I'm going to be a better overall fighter. So I have something. I will be around. I will be waiting, but
I was going to ask you, and first, before I ask you that question,
Yeah.
I do want to say, I think I appreciate the kind words about Fanzone. I think Brian appreciates your kind words too. I'm definitely going to talk to him about that, and I think Mark does as well. But you and Kirk also have been a huge part of it as well. I think that unit is definitely that's passionate about this game that makes it go on. So you're definitely a part of that as well, Cody. But yes, as I was going to say, and as you alluded to, you have defended 4 times, so you do have an automatic title shot. You would be able to, just based on the other stuff we have going on, you would be able to cash that in next year at the start of the season. Is that something you want to do, or do you want to get back into regular play? What's your thought process?
Can I reveal conversations between you and I?
Sure.
Okay, so
Okay.
the reason, well, I said it on call before that I would not use it.
Mhm.
And the reason why I would not use it is if I got to play. Tim has already formulated the rest of the season, and I'm not going to be in that picture. So at that point, there's no reason for me waiving it because I don't get to play any sooner. I would be early next year or early next year. At that point, I'd rather just go for a title again, because at that point, it just makes more sense. If I was to promise matches like in September, October, going to Final Act, I would have waived it. But I'm going to let the league, I'm going to let Final Act, I'm going to be able to help.
Yeah, amen.
Help Judge and
Amen,
some
brother.
of the future heading into that. So that's exciting. So no, I will be taking my automatic rematch when it is presented to me by the great Timber Collar. So that's what I want.
Do you there are going to be 2 title matches prior to that one that you get to cash in on. Do you hope it's still Brian there at the end of it? You think he can win 2 of them and meet you there at the beginning of next year? Or you think someone else is cooking?
He is right now, like, I know awards and I don't care about awards. Sitting here right now, he had the hardest road that any player in Fanzone history to win the belt. He beat Holtzman, I believe, which challenged for the belt. He beat Kirk, which was the champion and had 4-time defenses, and he beat me that had 4 defenses to win it. That is by far the hardest road. So somebody would have to wake up very early to catch Brian Michaels to have to beat him. So if Kirk, Jacoby, me, like those people could be around. They have to be ready to play Brian, because Brian is a serious threat.
Absolutely. Cody, thank you for a great match today. I look forward to seeing you back on the judge's desk, but also next year cashing in a title shot. I don't give a fuck. It's gonna be the season opener, so we'll see you at the top of the season next year. Thanks, Cody. As we bring in the new Fanzone debate champion, Brian Michaels. Brian, did you think that would be the call out at the end of this? Did you think there was even a chance, man?
Very slim chance. I thought that I had a chance early on, but by the time we were hitting where I had to hit both speed rounds to win, I really thought it was kind of over. I'm like, maybe I can pull out one of them. Because I mean, you can tell from my debates that I'm really into preparing my opening and closing. And so in the middle, I try to debate, but I'm a very prepared person. When you got into speed round, especially in that Back to the Future, I was flailing. I thought I was doing horribly. I managed to say a couple things apparently to convince people, but like you said, it really threw off somebody like me who's into prep. And the second one, a filmography question for speed round is just cruel because really a filmography is listing off their movies, and so I had to try and find a different approach. And so I tried to talk about the different directors you worked with and the variety of things like that, which apparently got it for me. But I did not think this was coming. I mean, Cody clean swept 2 of them. I only clean swept 1. He says he doesn't like pitch questions, but of the pitch questions, the theoretical ones, he won 2 of the 3. So I had and one of the, and then I will say on the first question is the one I thought I had locked, because Baymax, yes, on paper is the better choice, and I thought I had that locked, but he found a way to attack me. He went into a lot of the what ifs. He got popped. What if this happened? What if this happened? And I had more to say to defend it, but unfortunately in that first round I let him dominate the time, and I should have jumped in more, so I tried to do that later. But yeah, I didn't see this coming. I'm happy to be here, but I'm surprised, and I will play Cody again at some point.
Brian, I said it to Cody, I say it here. You're an integral part of the team, but also I think this was one of the best title matches we've had at Fanzone Debate. Mark's been around for quite a few of them now at this point. You've been here for a lot of them, so it's different looking at it from the other side. It's been a long time since I've been in your shoes or Cody's shoes, but I personally do. I think this is one of the best. It went down to the wire, and it was just incredible. So thank you for making it a great match. But you do have another match coming up. You don't have to wait a crazy long time. We're gonna see you back in October to try to defend the belt for the first time. So I'm gonna list off some people that are coming your way. You tell me if any of them tickle your fancy. Okay, you've got Andrew Barr, you've got Tyler Birch, you've got Alex Martinez, you've got Richard Schwartz, you've got Robert Kastner, you got Jack Pinchuk. Any of those people light your fire?
Of the group, I think they're the ones that just stand out to me most. Because I've seen them debate and I've seen how well they can debate. Honestly, Andrew Barr and Robert Kastner, I think are the two that jump out at me. Some of these fellas haven't seen debate as much. Somebody like Jack, though, I mean, he's one of those people that kind of has a more unusual approach that could really throw people off. So that could be a dark horse. But Kastner really knows his stuff, and Barr, is one of those people who, not to the extent of Kirk, but I've definitely disagreed with him quite a bit over the years in friendly ways.
Yes.
So that would be an interesting match as well. But any one of those, that's the thing about it. That's, I think, one of the reasons I was able to go as far as I did is everybody has their own style, and so I don't know how mine will match up against theirs. So we'll see how that goes.
Absolutely, Brian. Again, fantastic match. Congrats on being the new champion. I'm super excited to see what happens next. And like Cody kind of alluded to at the beginning of the match, you've been playing consistently, and now you get some time off until your next one. So we'll see if that affects things at all. But I look forward to seeing you in the next match. Brian, congrats on the belt. We'll see you in a few months for the next one, though I have a sneaking suspicion we'll see you in like 2 weeks at Andrew Barr versus Tyler Birch. Mark, final thoughts from you.
Yeah, this was very good. I think, like you said, I've been around for a couple of these now, and I will say, like, it's not very often. I think we kind of see Cody on the ropes, and we definitely saw that here at the very least at the beginning, where Brian had that 2-1 lead. Cody's able to get it back, and then Brian was able to snatch in that speed round. It was very back and forth the whole way. I think this match was exactly as advertised, and even though like it is like weird to we're now like in a world in this league where Cody isn't champion anymore. I think now we're kind of entering in this almost new era because we finally have a new champion in Brian, somebody who hasn't held the belt in a really long time, and I'm interested to see where that goes and kind of where Cody kind of jumping off where Cody's saying, like, because right now Brian is absolutely on fire. Every person he beat to win this title had had either won or challenged for the title, like within like the last season. So, I mean, I'm very anxious to like see what Cody does when he comes back. I'm very anxious to see Brian fight again because now it won't be for a little bit, but whenever that happens, I will be right here. I will assure you that.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to see it too. Guys, thank you for watching this match. That was the length of a feature film. We really appreciate it over here at Fandom Fights. But guys, this is only the beginning of Mayhem at the Multiplex. We got more stuff going on, some pretty dope stuff. Fandom's gross this year. Melee is gross this year. There's just a lot of big names, big stuff going down. Joe and Brittany are probably dying right now. But we will see you guys with the rest of Mayhem at the Multiplex very soon. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.
There we go. Thank you very much. Please come again. We have a lot more groceries.